Hello and welcome to this edition of Live with the SaaS Channel Playbook. I am delighted to have two guests here today, along with Angus, my co-host. My name is Teresa Cargill. I'm the founder and CEO of Achieve Unite. And I'd like to welcome Louise and John. Louise, introduce yourself.
Hi, Teresa. Thank you, Angus. Hey, hi, John. It's nice to see everyone. Nice to be around old friends again. My name is Louise McAvoy. I'm the VP of our U.S. channel team and our U.S. channel business at Trend Micro. So Trend Micro is a cybersecurity company, been around for about 30 years. We're really heavily focused on the cloud business, SaaS business, everything cyber.
And you have a fun hobby of mountain climbing in your spare time. And I understand you have 3 passports too, which is quite cool.
Yeah, my passion in life is climbing mountains, high altitude. Just give me the thin air and I love it. Yes.
Great. Yeah. Wonderful. Good. John, introduce yourself.
Thanks, Teresa. Louise and Angus, thanks as well. Looking forward to chatting. I'm John Mascarello. I'm the Executive Director for Cox Business Rapid Scale. I'm responsible for our channel programs across the country. We're a the largest privately held telecommunications company run by our family here out of Atlanta. So we provide telecommunications as well as cloud services from SMB through the enterprise space.
Wonderful. And you're quite a golfer, I understand, and you collect fountain pens.
I'm not sure if I'm quite a golfer, but I do golf and I have a lot of fountain pens.
And you have a lot of fountain pens. Wonderful. Awesome. And of course, my good friend and partner in our SaaS Channel Playbook series, Angus. Reintroduce yourself.
Thank you, Teresa. Great to be here. Great to see you, John and Louise as well. I'm Angus Robertson, a fractional chief marketing officer and partner with Chief Outsiders. I'm also co-chair of the Business Applications Advisory Council with CompTIA. Chief Outsiders, we help companies, including IT solution providers and SaaS companies, accelerate their growth through marketing and demand gen. But excited about the topic today. Thanks, Teresa.
Thank you. Well, I'm excited about this topic because, as John and Louise know, in industry events and places we go, it's often a conversation. So this channel is rapidly changing. How do we enable our C-suite, right? How does the CEO, how does the CFO, the chief revenue officer, the chief product officers, if we think about this, every one of them are critical to the new ecosystems we're all playing in. So with that, why don't we start the conversation and talk about, as this industry transitions to everything as a service, as we transition from a linear channel to an ecosystem, what do you think? What's your advice about how to get the C-suite bought in? John, let's start with you.
Teresa, thanks. You know, the C-suite's buy-in occurred before this current trend. They saw the value of what the indirect channel was bringing to the company, access to customers we normally weren't seeing, advanced services being sold. So now it's really just sharing with them the trend of where's the industry going, and how do we enable our partners, these business owners that we work with, to be more effective at their job? How do we automate the simple transactions and then lean in more heavily on the complex sales that require more support and services? So, and even the businesses we work with, the agents we work with, they want to have automation. They want to be able to take care of simple transactions on their own. And they're looking to us for more advanced features and services and higher level of selling capabilities and things like that. And quite frankly, that's what I would like our sales teams to be focused on as well, is being out there on complex opportunities. And let's have the simple transactions go through automation.
Great. Right. Oftentimes that's a good solution. And Louise, talk about your advice on having the C-suite much more involved. You have a lot of change happening in marketplaces and the journey to cloud and transforming the channel. So give us your insights.
We do. You know, there was one word I picked up on when you were talking to John, and that's around the ecosystems. So when we think about this transformation that we're going on, I don't see it just as a channel transformation. It's broad, it's digital. And so if we think about digital, it includes our sellers, It includes our marketing team. It includes our channel team, et cetera, et cetera. And so if you look at this transformation, not broadly, not just in channel, and really look at what is transforming and how can we work together as an ecosystem, I think that's the key in all of this. We can't be siloed, just, okay, let's look at this in the channel. If we look at this just in the channel, then we exclude our sellers. And when we're looking at how do we transform from, in the cyber world, an on-prem license to something like a SaaS or a cloud or a marketplace-based sale, really, if we want to include our partners and we want to get our sellers changed, you actually have to change how, for example, they're paid.
Right.
And that affects how your sales is going to work. That's a transformation in your sales team. You have to transform how it is that you market to your end customers, and the channel comes along with that. It's a whole play here, and I just don't see it as channel. It's an ecosystem, as you briefly mentioned.
It's an ecosystem. And one of the things that I see is the sellers who have been operating oftentimes as direct sellers, not only the mentality and the mindset, but the expertise has to change, because there's so much more leverage to be gained when you do this effectively in the seller's minds. So I think that's a really good point. Angus, weigh in. Let's hear your opinion.
Sure. Well, innovation and demographics are certainly forcing channel change. The channel's not monolithic, so it's definitely incumbent upon us to provide guidance to the C-suite. I like to think of markets and TAM, SAM, and SOM. So from a TAM perspective, who are the personas that you're trying to engage with, and what is their pain? From a SAM, how do you reach them? Do you have are you able to reach them where they are and how they want to engage? And then from a SOM standpoint, of course, your value and your product market fit and how you differentiate from a market share standpoint, but also what is that experience like? And being able to understand that with the shift in technology and also demographics is really critical. So I think we're seeing that, for example, with the evolution of Microsoft's program, where partner scoring is much more emphasized on consumption and the power of the strategic alliance, and also utilization and assisting the sale and retention versus the actual resale that has typically been the case. So I think being able to advise the C-suite on those changing dynamics and providing a framework to follow is helpful.
I just want to underscore your point around, if you all like the land, adopt, expand, renew, model, the layer model. And we actually talk about the B layer model. So partners build a practice, the B layer, and then land, adopt, expand, renew. And the C-suite really understanding the importance the partners can play in adopt and expand is critical, because we all think about landing the client and we all think about renewals. Well, you ain't getting a renewal, right? Unless you have these two really covered. So I just want to underscore that. I think and we still have a journey to go on with CFOs and CEOs getting that concept. So that's great. The other thing, just while we're on this topic, given your marketing role, marketing has become way more important in the life cycle of partners. I don't know, Angus, I know I'm putting you on the spot, but I've seen a huge shift in that.
Yeah, and it also relates to technology. It's everywhere, right? So from a buyer's journey standpoint, as you were just highlighting, a lot more consideration on how people are educating themselves and being able to understand their challenges and make decisions and evaluate solutions on their own. But at the end of the day, I do think they still want that human touch to some degree when they're getting serious. But being able to understand that customer journey throughout the land and expand mechanics, and ultimately that amazing experience and value, so that you're creating those advocates that's persisting that cycle.
Absolutely. So Louise, let's talk about the value of the channel in this transformation, and maybe you can kind of break down some different partner types and what you're seeing as you share with us your thoughts.
Okay, good question, Teresa. So, we talked about there's this transformation happening, and I'm seeing it happening really, really quickly in the channel. So when we're looking at, and then maybe, it could be more accelerated in the cyber world because we've got to get ahead of this very, very quickly. But when we think about it, it's not so much a partner taking a renewal anymore and adding margin and then, but not really talking to the customer. It is really about providing value, because that end customer can now buy off marketplace. At least with our solutions, most solutions you can buy off marketplace, plus the services, the bundles, whatever it is. So you can go around the partner right now and just click and buy. So the partner needs to really, really understand that there's this huge transformation taking place. And so instead of taking down their, getting rebates off their reseller, they can take down their EDP with AWS. And so that cuts out some layers of this channel, including distribution and a traditional reseller. So we have to figure out, how is it that we add value? Well, adding value, and Angus said that it's a human touch. We got to be in connect. We have to have connections with people. We also have to add value, and value, it could be around those services, and it's around the ecosystem. We're seeing more and more where if we layer what it is that we're doing with a partner who's adding services or solutions around a marketplace platform partner, around maybe another ISV that brings a different set of values, now we have a bigger play here. We have a different set of deliverables, different differentiators and value propositions that makes this a compelling value for that end customer versus just a point sale for renewal that they haven't really talked to them. They don't even know what the value is.
I think that's a really good point. And John, why don't you weigh in on your thoughts about the value of the channel in this transformation we're seeing?
So I like Angus's point about the personas of the customers. I like to think as well about the personas of the various agents, VARs, ISVs that we're working with and where they are in their program. We're fortunate here to have two different programs that we work through. One is an influencer channel, and that influencer channel is engaging us to bring us into discussions that we're not aware of. And then we have a traditional selling channel, which they're enabling to sell to their customers and solve their customers' needs. I think as we become more and more sophisticated in our approach, you really have to have the persona of that business you're working with really well defined to know how do you get to them and provide them the best information to support and represent your company, but also to support them as a business, right? So if I have a persona of a business that's relatively young, small operation, they have a certain caliber of customer they're going to attract, and I should be directing my education and enablement skills to them in a certain way versus an ISV that is well established, probably a government provider with some kind of status or contract. They're on a different scale in the level and how you support them. So I think as we become more sophisticated in the channel, we have to be really sophisticated in the personas of the agents we're dealing with and why it's important to them, not for self-service reasons, but really for the agents that we're trying to help, the VARs are trying to help be better business people, give them the right information they need at the right time.
Well, it's interesting you say that, and I was thinking about Angus. CompTIA is starting some new research that we're participating in on that very topic because the personas of the partners, and I think this also speaks to your point, Louise, around the evolution of the ecosystem. The partners have to change, right? Their depth of understanding of financial models and business models and how to build different types of alliances, all of those skills have to change in the coming years, as well as the vendor teams that we just talked about. So I think that's a great point.
Yeah, Teresa, I'll add, Teresa, just to add on, I think when we do I just came from a summit, and it highlighted it for me at the summit is typically these summits come at these business owners with technology. Here's this product, or here's this solution. And you've got this broad mix of business owners that are in there. And you sit back and go, they're not all on the same playing field. And unless we change how we present and engage, it's going to be difficult to really move them, advance them all to be better business owners and be better representatives of what we're doing.
I think it's a great point. What do you think, Angus? Weigh in here.
Well, you talked earlier about how marketing's adapting based on the digital transformation that we're seeing, and I can speak personally to this, and that is writing a lot of copy for a lot of websites just to make the Google algorithm happy. And that's not necessarily motivating, waking up and doing that, but now it's gotten to the extent where you can actually use something like a copy.ai to write the copy for you to make the Google algorithm happy. So there is a point where robots stop talking to robots, though. And I like what Louise and John were saying about the ecosystem and the services, because you can't just have one technology or one product solve this business owner's needs or solve this SMB's needs. So how do you have that partner who has that deeper level of understanding in that specific scenario and bring in the other complementary technologies and the services and the expertise to help guide down that path? And I know that business owners are looking for those partners to help their businesses be competitive and help their companies grow.
Yeah, it's very, very true. So, increasingly it feels as if there is somewhat of a bifurcation between sort of the channel of yesterday, the traditional channel, and then this new ecosystem. And I'm not sure that's entirely true. I just am hearing people talk like that. So let's weigh in on what your opinion is. Is there a traditional and a next gen? What does that look like? What are your opinions? Louise, why don't you get us started on this question?
I think it's a really good question, Teresa, and I'm absolutely seeing both models in play right now. So we Trend Micro definitely have a traditional resell model, and we offer MDF, deal registration, bronze, silver, gold partners, etc. But we also have this new modern version of what that channel looks like, because our customers are buying in a different way. So we have to evolve in the channel as well. So what does that look like? Well, it's those partners who know about well-architected frameworks. They understand assessments. They understand buckets and optimization and S3. And there's this whole other language that this new partner type understands. Do they care about MDF and deal reg? Are they a bronze, silver, gold? No. So we do have two plays here right now. And I'm putting a lot of in, like, we're still keeping this play, like the traditional model, very, very much. It's our bread and butter. We can't disrupt that, but we are looking to how customers are buying. And so we have to evolve. And that is sort of this modernization of sorts. And, we're putting some emphasis over on this modern type of partner. And it's interesting. I like seeing the two plays and, figuring out which one is, what it is that they do different. But it's definitely a different mindset. It's different way in paying them or incenting them. It's fun. I think, I've been in the channel for a pretty long time. I think there's no better time than right now to be in the channel. There's so much change, but with change, I believe, comes opportunities. I think it's great. It's great for partners. It's great to be in the channel. Yeah. Enjoy it.
I agree with you. It is a very exciting time in this channel because there is so much change and transformation, and they're becoming actually more important, not less.
Absolutely. Yeah. But they need to evolve. As you said, they've got to transform.
They're evolving. Yeah. And I often, we work with a lot of SaaS companies and trying to figure out what their channel strategy should be. And it depends, because it depends on who your end customer is. It depends on your buying motion, and how you design your ecosystem.
Absolutely.
All right. So John, let's have you weigh in on this topic. What is your view of the new and the old, or is there a new and old?
Well, if you don't recognize the new, then you really have got a challenge. We were talking about this earlier. I think at least 75% of the workforce by 2025 will be millennials and Gen Z. And if you think about that generation, they're digital natives, right? 42% of them use their smart devices to make their purchases. So you've got a very different experience, not just from the end user perspective, but as Louise said, from the businesses that she's dealing with that are selling Trend Micro's products, and companies we deal with that are selling Cox Business Rapid Scale products. That's not my phone.
Very important.
You never know what happens live, right?
That's right.
I was worried that it was my phone for a second. But you've got this generational change, and you really have to be acknowledge their habits are different. You have to continue what you've been doing from the traditional agency side or established agency program, as Louise discussed. But if you're not providing these individuals the tools to be to assist them the way they want to be assisted, you're going to be missing out. And that's why we have a big emphasis. We really are leaning in on automation, self-service, on-demand knowledge learning, training via snippets, even with our customers, giving them case studies and white papers that are more video-oriented versus, the traditional 5-page white paper.
Right.
People are not investing that amount of time anymore. They grew up on YouTube and TikTok, and if you don't get your point across in 90 seconds, you're going to be at a loss.
Yeah.
And that's really where we're leaning in to make a difference, to be more inclusive, enable everyone, the customers as well as the channel, to be better prepared. And we're seeing success in those areas.
That's phenomenal. It's interesting. We spend a lot of time, obviously, as you know, working with clients on revamping their partner programs and their partner strategy to accommodate what Louise is talking about. And it isn't about any of those old incentives. It's about competencies and services, and these partners' business is exactly right. All right, Angus, weigh in on this opinion. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, as John said, 75% by, was it 2026?
2025.
2025. So millennials. And another stat, CompTIA said that within the next 10 years, 40% of the channel will have retired. So the combination of those two factors means we're entering into some new here. And as John highlighted, millennials, most of them are influenced in their buying decision by the personal devices that they have and the personal purchase they have at home. And there's a significant amount of innovation there. What I find really interesting, though, is that versus the baby boomers or Gen X, millennials do like that relationship piece, that experience of who they're working with. And they want a brand that they can believe in, a brand that they can trust, and a brand that they aligns with their values. So I think that's a really interesting combination of, this digital native technology, but then the emphasis on the experience and that relationship. So how do you combine those two things? Because traditionally, when you think about technology, you don't think about the relationship as much. So I think that's a really interesting area to navigate. And I was actually curious to hear from Louise how the marketplace at Trend Micro has evolved, and how do you see that going forward and relating to the consumption model and how your prospects are buying?
Ooh, good question. Louise.
So, no, that's good. It's such a good question, Angus. And, when you think about, everything that everyone's saying here is that I'm picking up little tidbits, and I just want to jump in and go, yes, you're right. What is so important and what changed in the channel, I believe, or what we're seeing, especially with lockdown, 2 years lockdown, right? So when you think about the lunch and learns we used to have, and, all the enablement sessions, the things we used to do in the channel, it was wiped out, especially in security. It was like, how do you secure your endpoint devices? How do you secure your router? Because everyone's at home and you've got to do it now. And so it's not about this long sales cycle. It's, I got to do it now. So it's literally a point and click. I got to find the right vendor. I got to do it now. And I'm just going to purchase, and I don't have time to build that, get with that reseller to talk about it over lunch or at their next event. I got to enable them now. So it's marketplace, it's cloud, it's SaaS. All of that really, really accelerated those decisions. And it was, it's changed the model now. And it changes also, you mentioned this earlier, Teresa, even how things are priced or compensated. Instead of it being around margins and deal registration, it's now committed consumption. It's now pay as you go. It's now credits. It's now versus. All of that has changed and accelerated. We think about the influencers, and that's one word you use, John. It is, okay, well, who are you buying from? Because I got to do this real quick. I need to secure my device. there's a whole lot going on in the world right now. I got to move fast. Well, who are you using? Because I trust you and I believe that you know what you're doing. And so it's getting those influencers as well. Everything is really sped up, I believe, in this world. And it's a matter of getting the partners, involved and understanding where that shift is going. We're seeing it really, really quickly. And again, it's pretty exciting, lots of opportunities, but you have to jump on pretty quick to take advantage of it.
Well, and to triangulate your point about the rise of the influencer back to the C-suite, I think the way we approach the C-suite and the conversations we're having with them are very different now, because it is looking at your partner ecosystem, not just your channel, as an asset, right? Not a liability, not a finance cost on MDF. It becomes a strategic asset for your company if you do them right. Mm-hmm. And that alone is a fundamental shift in partnering. Mm-hmm. So let's do one last speed round on your number one words of advice to give to someone working with the C-suite and convincing them about the value of the ecosystem. Angus, you go first.
I think it goes back to that persona and target buyer. And if you can show the value that channel brings through qualitative and quantitative experience and data from that end user or consumer, I think that's powerful in helping educate the C-suite and helping justify your path forward and your recommendation.
Brilliant. John.
I'll give you two: reach and contribution. Reach meaning you're able to reach customers that other channels aren't able to engage, and you're bringing new things to the table that weren't addressable before. Contribution being financially that the channel is driving the same contribution margins and EBITDA that any other channel is driving. If you can communicate and share those, that's a highway to success.
I love it. The highway to heaven. Louise.
So I'll take a little bit of a different approach. As we look at the C-suite, I think we need to enable the C-suite, who are more likely not going to be a millennial just yet. And I think we need to enable the C-suite as to who those decision makers are, because they're coming up in the ranks, and how do they buy and how do they make decisions. And I think when we talk about like mentoring, and it's not just C-suite to the younger generation, it's, hey, younger generation, tell us what you're doing, how are you making decisions, and how are you buying? I think there's a two-way street there. And being in the C-suite, I want to hear from, the next generation, because I've got to listen to them. Yeah. It's an important buying cycle, right? They're an important audience.
My 13-year-old has become one of my most trusted advisors. So true. And I see some brilliant CEOs actually having the reverse mentoring model. I have an amazing reverse mentor who I respect immensely, and she has taught me so much about that. So great point. All right. Well, with that, we'll wind up this edition of the SaaS Channel Playbook. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, John. As always, Angus, thank you for being my partner in this journey. And have a great day, you all.
Yeah, a pleasure. Thank you.
Teresa. Pleasure, Teresa. Thank you. Thanks, Louise and Angus.
Thank you.